what was the big idea behind Teen Tech, and why do you feel it was needed?
Well, we set up Teen Tech in 2008 because I grew really frustrated at the number of reports coming out, sort of hand-wringing reports saying, oh, you know, we don't have enough young people going into engineering, people don't really understand what computer science is. And after talking to young people, I realised that what was needed was an event that brought together a whole spread of people working in the STEM industries so that teenagers could understand what the opportunities actually were in a really engaging way. Because so often, careers fairs, you see people standing behind a small table with a couple of pull-ups and a laptop, and that gives kids no idea about what it actually might feel like to be part of a team, to be working on a project. And so we kicked off Teen Tech. It got a great reception from the word go, and we now run it in 15 regions of the UK.
What's been the successes? Have you got any sort of stories you can tell about kids that maybe have been transformed in their sort of view of tech that you've worked with?
The great thing about Teen Tech is it works on many different levels. So on the one hand, you've got the students who may have been thinking about doing, I don't know, medicine or accountancy, who start to think, actually, I'd really like to work in technology, and perhaps seeing that things like artificial limbs don't just appear out of nowhere. One of the activities we do is a company which specialises in artificial limbs comes along, and the students fit an athlete's leg. And you can imagine how powerful that was in the run-up to the 2012 Games. And it just showed the fusion, really, of medicine, technology and engineering that made successes in the Paralympics possible. And that's an eye-opener, and it's something that many young people, and indeed their teachers, would never have thought about. And so giving students the opportunity to see things, to consider routes that they may not have thought about is one sort of great output, if you like, from Teen Tech. Another is to give students an appreciation of the talents they already have, which perhaps aren't necessarily recognised by our current exam system. So there are some students who I'm sure are an absolute nightmare in the classroom, but they come to the fore in Teen Tech because guess what? They're great leaders. And also when they get fired up by something, because the day is structured around challenges and hands-on activities, and they work alongside industry professionals. Well, when they're really fired up and they're focused and they want to achieve something, teachers are often gobsmacked at the way students are engaged and can suddenly see the point of things like maths and physics. There was one wonderful story I heard about a group. We run something called the Teen Tech Awards, so students are encouraged to look at different ways of making life better, simpler or easier using technology. And one teacher told me that they tried this on a group of Year 11 boys who was so disruptive, the teacher couldn't even do the register with them. And so what they decided to do was to abandon the curriculum just for a couple of weeks and let them focus on the Teen Tech Awards. And they said the students were absolutely transformed, and with not a little irony, the area they decided to focus on was the education category, and they looked for ways, excuse me, and with some irony, they focused on the education category, and they looked for ways to make their teachers' lives better, simpler or easier. Now that was a great thing, and what it did for those students was, rather than always being chastised or being the ones in the school who were being pointed at for being disruptive, they were suddenly the heroes of the school. And that is quite a transforming experience when you've always been on the end of criticism. So, yeah, encouraging students to see themselves in a different way is an important part of what we do.
You're a prominent woman in the tech sector, and there's so much conversation about the lack of women, or the lack of visible women, I suppose, in tech. What are your thoughts on why is it that at so many events there isn't many women on stage? Why are we not seeing the role models that we should be?
I think it's a massive issue, and it's gone on for a long time. We're talking about 30, 40-year-old issue, if not very much longer. And I think that we do have to be alert it's about being alert. It was quite interesting yesterday, the Skills Day that we curated, when we were thinking about who should we get to come along. Well, obviously I'm aware of making sure that the gender representation is right. It doesn't mean that I'm having women there just for the sake of having women there. It means that I think about it, and I look for inspiring, interesting women working in tech, and that becomes it's a priority. And I'm sure that, say like today, where out of the 20 people presenting, 19 are men, I'm sure if people had said to all of those companies, do you know what, have you got someone like a rising star in your organisation, someone, a woman who perhaps you would really like to have here as an encouragement to others, a visible sign that your organisation has got fabulous women working there. I think they would have had no issue. But no one asked that question, I suspect. And so sometimes it's not that people are deliberately being sexist, but perhaps if you're asked to field a speaker, maybe the first person who springs to mind is the person who's always done it, as opposed to someone who actually might be better.
Your task force report, I think, isn't it out later this month?
It's going to come out in July.
Right. So I don't know whether you probably can't talk in detail about it, but what do you hope it will achieve when it comes out?
There's some irony in me being asked to write a report, because the reason we set up Dream Tech was because I got so fed up of seeing these reports. So when we embarked on the process, I said, right, okay, if we're going to do this, I want to make a difference. I don't want to write a report, I want to make a difference. So we've structured the whole information gathering in a way that hopefully it is making a difference. It might not be massive, but it is making a difference. So, we've gone out to regions, we've run task force groups within regions, and several things have happened already as a result of what we're doing. And also by alerting and pressing certain organisations for more information, they begin to realise, actually, we don't have that information. So now they're looking for it. Now that's a good thing. In terms of recommendations, it's no surprise that we'll be taking a look at how can we better support the teachers who are now in England going to be asked to deliver the computing curriculum, and perhaps feel a little bit apprehensive about that. It's one thing to offer CPD, but do we need to support the schools and the teachers in actually going and attending those CPD sessions? What role do companies have to play in all of this? What's going on if when graduates are leaving university they're not finding opportunities, when we know that companies are crying out for people? Are companies perhaps not looking in the right places, or do we need to do something within higher education to make sure that all graduates, not just computer science graduates, leave with the skills that industry actually want? And I think there's a big piece around perceptions, because I've heard from a number of companies who actually are quite frustrated by the assumption that to work within IT, within the IT industry, that you have to have a computing science degree. Susan Cookling from Network Rail is really adamant on this point, that she's got a really diverse workforce. They've got degrees in all sorts of subjects, that she can train them to the level of, with the technology that they need to be handling. But what she needs are the qualities that they have. And she wants to draw from a richer talent pool. And I've heard that from several people, that people assume that, I can't do that because I've not got maths, or I've not got, computer science. And then obviously there are jobs which do require very sort of like higher level skills, and we just need to make sure that we are giving people of all ages the opportunity to acquire those skills, and perhaps saying you don't have to go to university to do this. There are some great apprenticeships, and making it easier as well for SMEs to be involved with apprenticeships, because at the moment I think it's an incredibly complicated procedure, and most SMEs, when they just go on the website, will just think, oh, do you know what, I'm just not even going to think about it. And that's a pity, because with the right kind of sort of framework, I think SMEs could really get a lot out of having an apprenticeship program, and obviously the people of all ages would benefit by by it being in place. So it's all about, how do we make the most of the talent we've got here in the UK, and how do we do that fairly quickly before we slip down the pecking order. We're a great country. We've for every with absolutely every justification, we've got a great reputation for our inventiveness, our the great creativity that we brought to technology, and it's important that we carry on.
Tomorrow's World, I know you're probably asked about this every time you have to do interviews, but I'm a big fan. I posted on Facebook yesterday that I was interviewing you, and all my friends went, but on my personal Facebook as well, and I got lots of likes, and oh my god, Tomorrow's World. But when you were doing the shows, and I watched the famous mobile phone clip on YouTube last night, when you were sort of at the time working with that technology, what were your sort of thoughts were going through your mind? Were there any moments where you think, this is just crazy, this is never going to become a sort of common thing, or did you always sort of think, this is the future?
I think probably most of the time we thought that this is slightly mad. It was interesting with reporters on Tomorrow's World, because you went through a bit of a cycle. So when you first joined Tomorrow's World, everything you handled, you thought, wow, this is just amazing, and you told everyone about it. And the way that you talked about that technology on the programme was like that. But after a while, after you've done it for a couple of years, a little bit of cynicism crept in, because the things that you thought were just amazing nothing had happened. They just completely disappeared. So you were a little bit more cautious in your enthusiasm for whatever it was that you were demonstrating. And because so much of the technology was very much at the prototype stage, it was really quite hard to see the wood for the trees. I mean, I demonstrated the first satellite navigation systems, for cars, and it was so cumbersome. I just thought, this is just, what is wrong with the math? And I mean, my daughter can't believe that I'm old enough to have demonstrated the first supermarket barcode reader, but indeed I did. And, because it contained a laser, the BBC decided that it was far too dangerous to do live, so there were safety officers on every door of the studio, and only I and the crew allowed in there. So given all of that fuss, it was very hard to believe that this would be in every supermarket within a very short period of time. So it was hard to pick out the winners, and sometimes if I look back over a programme, or someone will alert me to something, I've actually completely forgotten that I did hold that groundbreaking tech, because it's so long and it was in such a different form.
What I mean, you're still involved in sort of tech shows on TV, but what do you think how the mass media covers tech now? I mean, there's Tomorrow's World was a prime time regular show for 30 odd years. Do you think the TV and the newspapers are covering tech as well as they should be?
I think if you were to look and measure the amount of broadcast time and web space given to technology, it's extraordinary now. There's far more information about tech. However, I think the greatest focus is on what I might call sort of like home technology or office technology. And sometimes I get a bit cross, that something is described as technology, and I look through it and I think, actually, do you know what? This is just all home tech. And the world of technology is so much bigger than what we're seeing. So I do get a little bit sort of frustrated that we don't make more of the bigger world of technology, and that's what Tomorrow's World did. There wasn't that there was focus on the gadgets that would make a difference, that would transform your life, but it was we covered other things too. So that's a pity. I think it's a bit of a missed opportunity.